Hobby Talk with PSA Canada for February 9th, 2023. We are back. Good evening, Luke. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Excellent. The bright, shining light of the hobby is casting a warm glow upon you, so we like that. We appreciate it. Brad, how's it going this evening?
Excellent, thank you.
Absolutely. So let's get into this. A couple of different things we got to talk about that we can chat on, and let's get to a couple of announcements. Though we did get a special, and I think it actually plays in hockey. Of course, it's hockey 99 was the first comment. Of course. But the question here actually does play into it a little bit. So we do have a special for the month of February. So do you want to kind of outline some of that?
Yeah, so we launched obviously last week. We had commitments that we just couldn't go live, but the February special is for TCG cards, which is $22 Canadian, no collector's membership, obviously, when you use our services. So you don't need to have that. No minimum, no maximum. I do add the maximum because there's a lot of questions this week, which was surprising about. Usually I get the minimum ones, but is there a maximum? So, no maximum on the amount of cards. If you want to send 100, 1,000, 5,000, whatever you want, we will accept. The next part is a new category that they put, and it was February special, which was interesting. And this one I didn't know. I did not think this was coming down the pipeline right now. I thought this would be more later, like towards the middle of 2023. But it was the vintage special, which is 1989 and back. And same as TCG, both these tiers have max value $199, and they're at $22 Canadian. It's we've had great turnout so far. So.
I have no doubt on that, but I do have a theory about it. So, and I did share it on my channel, but I'll reiterate it for you. I think the reason why they were able to do the vintage is there is an understanding that they are slower at processing vintage. That's something we've discussed, and it's known at this point. But we've also talked about how we feel like the set registry guys, or a lot of the vintage set registry guys, have kind of been a little shortchanged on it. Like, fact of the matter is, this doesn't address that. And the reason why I think that's the case is that even though it's obviously special, it's better, obviously, giving the special and make it cost a little bit less, it's not low enough to change anything for them, because we already had the $15 US equivalent towards the end of last year. So if it didn't move the needle for them then, it's not going to move the needle for them now, which is to say they will get an influx, a slight uptick, but it's not going to be a flood. So it means that they will actually be able to handle the volume I would expect for the vintage side of things, even though they'll see an uptick in it. But it won't be the flood that I don't think they'll have to worry about it. For the TCG, obviously, the $15 equivalent USD was very popular, and that did very well for them. So it doesn't surprise me that they would go back to that well, because that totally makes sense. And I have no doubt that's probably very popular. Give them the $15 again, or 22 Canadian. I think they're into it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Absolutely. And it's all part of the science that they're trying to do, is figure out, hey, what's the price point? What can we do? So now they're going to get a good idea of how many vintage cards are going to come through, because they haven't offered that vintage special yet per se. So we'll say, oh, okay, at $15, how many cards did we get at this? And then they'll be able to judge, so they can open the well up again when they see. So
yeah, like I said, I think there's going to be a little bit of a boost, but I don't think it's going to be, like I said before, when in December you could have submitted your vintage for $15 also. So if you weren't doing it in December, the likelihood that you're suddenly going to do it in February, probably not. For a few guys, yes. For a few folks, it does make sense. And they brought back that $199 declared value, because we talked about it. It's like, that's in their back pocket for when the specials come up, and that wouldn't shock me. So this plays into the first question here. Do you see PSA doing a sale based on sport? For example, a hockey submission sale, wrestling. Previously, in the past, they used to do specials based on that kind of a theme. Right now, they're doing it based on certain specific categories, but I could totally see them going back to a special where they just focus on one category, so they don't take in everything at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's going to be all kinds of different things that they're going to offer. So
yeah,
and it does. It makes it a lot on people, group submitters like ourselves. Mm-hmm. It makes it difficult. It's very difficult when you're constantly changing things on our systems, especially when people are shipping things in and so forth. But we're getting through it. So
yeah, absolutely. So Dave says, good evening. Horse racing and flowers, $12.77. That's a category. Why not? Howdy, gents. Let's get right to the meat and potatoes. Brad, finally went from shipping to Halifax on Saturday. You did say that we would get invoice soon. How soon, since I'm in Halifax now?
Yeah, so
Probably next couple of days.
Yeah. Is that Nico? Is he on your end, Luke? Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
I got your cards. We just have to go and do the paperwork, and Sherry will be invoicing I spoke to her today, so she'll be doing price more the next day. And I'll get it out early next week.
Nice. I find the submission cost for most submissions still more expensive than the July special. They aren't trending down on the regular yet. They have no incentive to do so. They did 1 million cars last month. That's why it's like I think it has to be remembered that as stuff gets processed in, they are literally playing a money game. You're literally watching them play with a dial. It's basically like move it a little up, move it a little down, move it a little up, move it a little down. It's just finding exactly. They basically want to maintain a certain amount of submissions. They don't want too much, and they don't want to let it dip too little. And what's funny is that there's still apparently a lot of cards that people are still willing to submit at that rate. So there's really no incentive to just drop it like a stone. And none of the other guys are doing it either. You don't see SGC running to drop the price suddenly. The only ones that really have a really low bulk rate right now, relatively speaking, is CSG, and no one seems to care. I like them for what they do, but they've been offering it. If people are willing to do the collector's membership and all that and take advantage of all the specials, the bulk rate's pretty competitive. And we can talk about, and I'll talk about relating to ComC because we were chatting about ComC beforehand. Well, they're doing something with them too. So it's not like they're not trying stuff, but the market is saying what the market is saying.
Mhm.
Luke, are you hoping to have a regular cheap rate? Luke, do you want all the cheap grading? Fair to say the cheaper it costs to grade, the better for you. I actually have a counter argument to that, but please, your thoughts.
Honestly, it doesn't really matter. I think the only problem I find with these specials is there's always some stipulation. So, for example, like you said, 1989. I mean, they changed it from 1996 to 1989 now. And the thing is, with the TCG, it's 1980 and up and newer. So Star Wars 1977 Star Wars, you can't send those in.
That's right.
So there's a lot of stipulations, and so by the time things come back, it's actually a lot more work because now we have to figure out what was it being charged at the time. What were the stipulations when I input it in? If I put one in and it doesn't fit that category, I have to go and start a new submission number, and now so it's a lot more work, I think. But
absolutely,
at the end of the day, you know what? If it's $10, $15, $20, I think people that want to grade will grade, and it's just a matter of does it fit in their category for that sense. If it makes sense for them, then they'll do it. If not, then they'll wait till it fits and works into their budget, right? So,
I agree with that. Nico says thanks, Luke. Perfect. Thank you, Nico. I like this question. Carlos, are they ignoring all submission data pre-2020? Yes. Are they starting over and we're the guinea pigs of what the market bear? Yes. Very yes. Super yes. Cannot emphasize the amount of yes. And I really shouldn't be shocking you with that statement. Like, again, I can say that with no inside information, just observing, just think about it. Ignoring pre-submission data pre-2020. At this point, the pre-2020 submission data is irrelevant because now when they cleared that backlog, I think when they finally said, I think it was the PSA president finally said the total, it was like close to 15 million cards. To be clear, they have had different times throughout the course of PSA's history where they've been a little slow and slower and there's been a back and forth. They have never graded as many cards in a period of time as they have during this most recent period. 15 million card backlog plus other cards that were being submitted during. 1 million cards a month, several months in a row. Now, is that going to sustain forever? Absolutely not. But to be clear, that's still way more cards on average than have ever been graded. The capacity is almost 13 million cards a year right now. There were never that many cards graded even at the apex prior to 2020. That has never happened. Probably within the next year or so, if we count that pandemic period, and just think about this and put this into context. Between the pandemic period and maybe by next year or so, they will probably have graded more cards in that 2 to 3 year span than the entire history of the company up until that point. And that's not an exaggeration. So everything prior to 2020 literally doesn't matter to what's going on right now. Now, will that sustain forever? No, that's ridiculous. Eventually we will not run out of cards to grade, but we need so many new influx of new product. It's the new products that drive those numbers. Because even the vintage guys, as much as unless we give them rock bottom prices, the vintage guys have already told you $15 US equivalent is too high for most of that stuff. So they're not going to get it graded. The Manels and other stuff like that, sure. The Honus Wagners, if somebody finds one, they'll get it graded. Babe Ruth card, they'll get it graded. But the majority of vintage is not going to drive those numbers. You're not getting 1 million cards a month on vintage. You're getting 1 million cards a month because Upper Deck flagship came out, or the Cup comes out and somebody wants to grade their RPAs. You need all of those. All that stuff, that's what's going to drive, Topps 2023. For some reason, some people lose their mind and send a bunch of the rookies from that. That's what's going to drive volume. It's not going to be the older stuff. There'll still be older stuff submitted throughout, but it'll be lesser.
Yeah, and you can see the emphasis on TCG. I mean,
well.
yes. I think that's 50% of their things, and all these new games and going back, like who knows what's going to catch on and who's going to keep driving that. So it's very interesting to see. I know there's been a lot of new games that they've tried, and ones that I've heard. You know, I've actually bought a few. I have a few cases that Flesh and Blood. I don't think it was a very smart investment, but I'm going to hang on to them anyways. Some of these games, some of them are going to catch on. Something's going to go, but Pokemon is still the king. That's for sure.
Yep, absolutely. So Dave here says $10 is the level you'll grade a few 173 tops to your set registry, and I agree 100% with Dave. But here's what PSA has literally said: I don't care. Keep your 73 tops. In effect, what they've said is like, for the moment being, not interested. Keep it. Because what happens is they're looking at it. Remember, last month, 1 million cards, 600,000 were TCG. They want your Pokemon cards. They don't want your 73 tops. And this special, one of the specials was TCG, because they want your Pokemon. They want your Pikachu. They want your Charizard. That's what they want. They want Kevin to be very happy because he's getting a stack of these cards. They want the Cheese Stringamon. We all want the Cheese Stringamon. But the point is, that's what they want. The rest of it, they don't care. They care about, Luke's Jason Robertson fixation. They want tons of those to be sent in. The 73 tops, keep it, buddy. Yeah. Hang on to it.
And I think as they keep on building up their efficiencies, like this, it's still been a short period of time since the new ownership has taken over. Mm-hmm. So they're becoming more efficient, and all of a sudden, maybe there's a division that does vintage. Like there's all kinds of things that they might do to be more efficient and to offer all these things to all the collectors. It's still figuring all this out and saying, okay, what do we have? And then all of a sudden they started to figure it out, and then the world goes into a tailspin, recession, blah, blah. That has to affect everything as well. The business side comes out then as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So with many that entered the hobby in 2020 having left, if they did $10 submission, wondering if you think they have a 15 million card backlog. No. But again, we're back to where we just started. You don't need to. Like literally, again, the backlog is actually done at this point, and at higher rates than $10, they're doing 1 million cards a month. That will drop off. It will not stay at 1 million cards a month forever. It just won't. But again, 600,000 of them were TCG. The TCG guys do not care about $10 submissions. The TCG guys are very happy with 15. So if you're PSA and you're doing some math again. And maybe I'll phrase it this way. This is business. Let's put our business hats on for just a second. If you're PSA and you're sitting there and you can grade 1 million cards a month. So let's say $1 million cards a month. Let's use the lowest possible rate, which by the way is not accurate because cards are getting graded at different submission levels, right? But let's use the lowest possible level right now. $15 equivalent US. That's $15 million in a month. If all you did was that at $15 a card, which by the way is not what people are actually paying, it's going to average up a little bit higher because of the higher tiers. But $15. You do that, $15 million a month, 12 months, $180 million in a year, straight up with no upcharges. It's a lot of money. If you really think about it, it's a lot of money, but it's actually higher than that because of the different rates. So you're already making that. If you're PSA, and I use an extreme example just to get our heads around it. If you're PSA and you were going to make $15 million a month, if I could grade one card for $15 million or 15 million cards at $1, it makes more sense for me to grade one card for $15 million. It makes more sense for me to use less resources to make the same amount of money. So it actually doesn't behoove them to lower that price point. I agree that for the set registry guys, it would be fantastic. I was in the 10 to 12 camp. Can it still happen? Sure, it's possible. But right now they're clearly looking at the math and going like, actually, we have enough capacity. We've got enough capacity and we're getting enough cards in the door at this price point. We've increased our expenses. We've gotten more territory. We've hired more people. We've done all these things. Why on earth would we just randomly lower the price? Because even if we did lower the price, is our business going to double? Probably not. Actually, no. It would increase, yes, but would increase enough to offset the additional work that we have to do in order to get it back out the door. And they're running that number and they're going like, actually, no. I'd rather you keep your 73 tops, like I said, the example for Dave, and then I don't have to grade them. And then I charge somebody else $15 for their Pokemon card, and I make 50% more per card, and I have to grade less. And I make more money. NBA winner. But it's business. Like I said, we pride ourselves here in being a little bit trying to be like just honest and transparent. It is a business. They're trying to make as much money as possible with the resources if they could If they could run with half the workforce they're running right now and grade the same amount of cards, then they would do it. But realistically, they need people, they need bodies in there to grade the stuff they're doing. And they have a ton of capacity compared to where they started a couple of years ago. So they've ramped it up. That has increased costs. So they're not running to be like, let me charge less. Unless somehow that makes me more money. If it does double my business, well, then so be it. I'll deal with it. Then I'll hire even more people. But otherwise, it makes no sense for me to lower the price just because you want them to.
Yeah. You know, one thing that you can always look at too, we think about it, a card goes in and it gets graded by a grader and it gets slabbed and shipped back. But there's so much more on the technology side, the engineering side.
Mhm.
I always say you can go in and look at a company, and I used to do this before my days with PSA. Go in and see a company and see who they're hiring. So if you go into PSA careers, I haven't looked at this in a while, but if you click on careers or job opportunities, you'll see the amount of people that they are looking for in different departments that you wouldn't even think there was a department for. But it's engineering this, engineering technology this, researcher for this, and it's very interesting. It gives you a little bit of an insight behind the scenes of the amount of work that does go in. You just think about building Carlos, you talked about it with Mike, baseball card collector.
Yep.
You know, with the database and these things to implement and the cost behind it, like, you know, and the time that it takes to do. Every time there's a new set that comes out, it has to be implemented into their system and then imaged, and all these things keep happening. And there's major work that a lot of us don't think about. And I never thought about it before until I really started to dig into it. There's a ton of work.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Just scanning through a couple of these here. Why doesn't a PSA have certified graders outside of their headquarters? Why can't Brad or Luke be certified? I think Luke's certifiable. Oh, you meant certified. Certified. Different. Sorry. Different conversation. And we can have them grade for us. Luke, why aren't you certified in addition to being certifiable?
It'd be awesome. It would be awesome to do that.
I think, look, so like I said, we mentioned other third-party graders in the spirit of fairness. CSG does have a model for this. CSG does do some of those little, what is it, like a seminars? Where they'll do some training and they'll give people some tips and stuff. I could see that being a thing. That would be interesting. I don't know if they would want to do it, but it would be an interesting thing. But CSG has definitely made some inroads, if nothing else, an education piece to let people, hey, it'd be kind of cool to have a seminar, learn some things, learn some counterfeit detection. That'd be kind of nice. I think that benefits a lot of people. I think that'd actually be really good for a lot of folks. Down the road, I'll be honest, since we've talked about it in the past, something like the Mint Collective, since they try to talk about panels and stuff like that, that would, if it's supposed to be like an industry thing, that would be a good spot for them to do seminars like that. You know, have CSG run one of those grading, you know, counterfeit detection seminars. Teach people a couple of things that will help them, that make for more educated collectors, dealers, and people that are associated. Even if they're not working at a third-party grader, it's still good information for them to have.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Like we're going to the Mint Collective this year, and that's one of the things CSG is. I think it's CSG that is doing a seminar on grading.
Yep.
And I said to myself and Sherry, we're both going to attend that just to watch and see it. I mean, the more you can learn on it, the better we are. So
yeah, Dave's making a good reference, so I'll kind of skip ahead here. Go ahead, Luke.
Well, I said Brad and I were talking about this before. I mean, we talked about this about a year ago, right? So something like, you know, as an added incentive for us, you know, or an added value for using us is like, you know, things like this, where if we were to become like a certified grader or like you said, doing some kind of, you know, sessions or things like that, I mean, these are definitely things that, you know, down the road, but at the end of the day, it's how much time, you know, we're working through this whole thing, growing this whole business and trying to make sure people are getting taken care of, right? But I mean, everything is just development of it, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So any thoughts? PSA's yet to deploy, gentlemen? Who says they haven't?
Yeah, they're definitely using that technology.
Yeah, it might not be being used in the way you think or the way you wish they would use it, but that's two different things. Because the gentleman CEO is still in the organization, and when they acquired it, it's basically like a skunkworks thing. Guess what? It sucks because everybody wants it now, and that's always the thing. But like, as somebody who has worked in the technology side of things, sometimes you'll have a technology or something, and it's like, okay, cool. So when are we implementing it? In like 4 years. Why? Because we're going to keep developing it during that time period. It's a very long lead time. There's this big, long roadmap. It's like, so when do we actually get to see the thing? It's like, eventually.
Yeah. And you can say every card right now is imaged by PSA.
That is true. Yeah. That is a step towards kind of accomplishing part of it. And the good chance that that's being done, the information is being fed into a system, the database is expanding. which is going to play into this a little bit as well. Now, at least that's a start, because one of the things we talk about is what if you get patch cards graded, and now you've actually got scans. So now you've got a reference database that you can refer back to, because that's one of the things that blowout forms, when they're doing their detection stuff, that is hugely helpful. Just having that database available where you can find that card and be able to pull up an image of it, that's huge.
Yeah. And we've had cards that we've submitted for people that have come back and said, sorry, this card, if you want to send this in, this card's already been graded by us before. That weren't serial number cards. So
Really?
So you can add that into the equation.
I had one, but a serial number, then they caught me.
Nice. So this one on the fake Magic Bird slab, you heard anything about this one?
Zero.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Quickly, I'll scan through a couple of these. If they're opening another office, does this mean they anticipate a huge spike in submissions? Not necessarily. They could just be doing it just to have the ability to move the work between two offices. Don't forget, Santa Ana, California is an expensive piece of real estate. It's also expensive to hire people there. It gives them another option to have graders on both sites and be able to have plenty of capacity to spare. Also be able to hire from a different pool of people on the other side of the country. So it gives them a little flexibility to play around. It doesn't just mean they're going to hire everybody in creation, but they could, and it gives them an option to do so. But like I said, like I'm being serious. Like, I'm not actually just saying it facetiously. I think if they drop the price to $10 per card tomorrow for bulk, I don't think business would double. There would be people who submit, yeah, but there's some people who are just sitting there like, yeah, I'm still not submitting. Make it $8. There's always a number. They'll always pick a lower number. It's like, make it $6. Make it $4.47.
Well, I think it was when they ran the July special, and this was one of the mini backlogs per se. When they did the July, they allowed enough time. They said 120 days to be safe, but they were anticipating the July special when it dropped to 15 USD to get, say, $1 million, $1.5 million, and they got 3 or 4 million. So that throws it for a big loop at that. I think kind of the opposite of you though, Carlos. I think if it went, seeing the influx that we've got already for the $15, I do think if it went to $10, that PSA would get, if they're bringing in a million cards a month or million, I don't know the numbers, but if they're grading 1 million cards a month, I assume keeping things going, they're bringing in 1 million cards a month. I think if they dropped it to 10, I think they'd get a 5x. I think you get 5 or 6 million. The amount
Would
of
you get 5 or 6 million though at $99 declared value? Because that would be in line with their old $8 one. You could just adjust the declared value and to kind of mitigate it.
But I think people are realizing on the declared value, and I still think there has to be work done by PSA on that. People are submitting at the lowest level now and just letting PSA upcharge. So it's like a lot of people aren't concerned with that as much with the declared value as much as maybe they should be from an insurance side. But even we put in an order for a friend of mine, and he just said, yeah, just put them all at $1. I'm just putting them in at a value. And again, there's nothing in there that's going to be like 1,000. Well, I shouldn't say, if he gets some tens on those, they could be $1,000, $1,500 card. But I think a lot of people are playing that game. And I don't know if I'm sure they have someone trying to figure out a way to make it more efficient that people do submit at the proper categories, but it's tough. I go over it every time. I tell people, submit at the lowest level you're comfortable with from an insurance standpoint and a turnaround time. That's really what it is,
Well, I think though you're like, it's possible. Like what you're saying is possible. I'm taking into account that a lot of the flipping right now is not as viable as it was during the absolute apex. So like the $10 rating would help some folks for sure. And it would mean some folks who were already submitting cards could submit more. And that would be beneficial for them from that perspective. I just don't see that somebody who is like, oh my God, $10. Here's 5,000 cards. Take it. Is it possible? Sure. But like the gap between the 15 and the 10 is like, so you were submitting 0 before and now you're submitting 5,000? The $5 meant that much to you? I guess it's possible, but it's just it'd be kind of tough. So Dave here says stamps have seminars at the APS shows. Also coins do a lot of that with the seminars, especially for training on condition stuff. They do a lot of that. Good evening, Eric. Best way to learn about topic specific. That's kind of why I'm talking about it, is that I'm saying the seminar thing was an education piece for a lot of folks. And it's very popular with those conventions. They do very well on those. In cards, we never really got into that for whatever reason. Even though there's stuff, people talk about how complicated it is as well. You could make seminars on this stuff if you really thought it was that important to educate people, if that's what you wanted to do. But anyway, As someone who enjoys the hobby, why do I care about the overlords and main collective? You don't have to, but the industry players are there, so it doesn't matter whether you care or not. It's irrelevant. If the industry players are there, there is an opportunity to do some stuff, and they can because you get them all in the room. It's one of those things. You get them all in the room. That's the reason why. You personally don't need to care at all, but there is value to it for the business people that are trying to do business in there when they're all in the same space at the same time, and that's where they can talk a lot of shop and stuff gets done. Just stop by to say hi and smash the like button. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. Will this mean the crack and reset game is soon coming to an end? Doubt it. Not today, not tomorrow. Maybe eventually, but not anytime soon. What happens if they buy a raw card that was once in a PSA holder and then I sub that card? Would I be out of luck? No, probably not. Not for a while. The technology is possible, but not today. Eventually, California likely regulates the use of plastic in the future. That's where having the second office future-proofs you a little bit. Gives you an alternative just in case. Like that's why I said you could space out the workforce between the two places. So if there is an issue suddenly, you already have another group of people already fully loaded and on standby. You can activate and really get the additional volume headed that way if you need to. The CPSA going to countries where labor is cheap? No. Well, you could, but at the same time, then you're adding an additional shipping problem. It's an insurance and liability problem. You take it out of the country. What happens if something? How are you going to send it out in a shipping container? What do you think happens if there's an issue with the shipping container? International treaties, duties. Just remember, it's not quite the same as microchips. They're making it over there and sending it over here. It's a little different. Makes sense to submit at the lowest level. If it doesn't jam and value one's up, you were essentially making a donation. Yeah. Years and years ago, we did. One year they had ethics and baseball cards. About 7 people attended. Well, that's the thing. That's the problem, Dave. A lot of people just don't care enough. They don't care enough about it. Some of the early nationals said seminars. Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
And the second part is also true. Unfortunately, that's the thing. The other hobbies are a little bit more inclined. The people are more interested in actually learning about the stuff and attending these seminars and getting this information. But here you try to provide it, and it's like, no, they don't want to attend it. They don't want to put in the time, and they certainly don't want to pay for it. They want all the knowledge to be free.
Yeah.
Look it up on the internet. Okay, perfect. So we're caught up on the comments. Let me. Was there anything else, Brad? Announcements or anything PSA Canada wise that you wanted to touch on?
No, just a few things. Luke will be at the next BOSA show on February 19th. That's our next show. Luke will be there accepting submissions for the February special as well. And Dale puts on a great show. So Luke's excited to be there. I'd like to get out there, but it's just not in the cards right now with our schedule coming up. So yeah. And then the next thing too is myself and Sherry will be going to PSA headquarters on March 6th to the 9th. So we have 3 days, 2 days with PSA and a day by ourselves. And it's going to be very interesting. So we have meetings lined up, and I'm excited for it. And I'm thinking some very good things are going to come out of it. So it'll be exciting.
Should be interesting. Yep. Now, one thing I'll touch on, since we mentioned a little bit earlier, is we talked about the whole the possibilities. We were talking about COMC before we came on to start off with, but it also plays into one of the points that's being made about the different options and the third-party graders playing into the space. COMC did its little announcement where now they've gotten into so that CSG, you're actually able to use, and we were chatting about EPAC and everything. You can do EPAC, you can do whatever's already on the COMC platform. You can actually submit it directly to them through grading. Now, this is where they now apparently, some people did a little digging, and it's not an exclusive. So there's no reason they couldn't do something like that with SGC. There's no reason they couldn't do that with PSA. There's no reason they couldn't do that with Beckett or any of the other ones that they want to do that with. That could be another angle that some of these third-party graders use to be able to offer certain levels where you can do it. Because if you take it from EPAC, directly from the manufacturer, Upper Deck in this case, and you put it on the platform, and then you submit it directly from there, and then you get it back on the platform, and then you can ship it at your leisure, that's kind of a one-stop shop. Because today, if you wanted to pull off the same stunt, you'd have to take it off the platform, bring it in, cross your fingers and hope that's in good shape when you get a chance to look at it, and hope that in the shipping, nothing bad happens, and then send it in for grading. So it does remove one layer. I'd be curious to see if PSA or any of the other guys would look at it. I guess it's going to depend, though, on how successful it is. Because I have my curiosity. I'm doing my experiments with it just to see how it works and how effective it is and if they meet their turnaround times and everything. But it could be another way for some of these players to get some additional volume through an unconventional way, because like I said, e-pack, the simplicity of doing from point A to point B, there are some possibilities there. Any thoughts on that, Luke?
Doesn't somebody do that with like Beckett already? I can't remember. I'm just trying to think who it was.
I want to
But
say
that somebody does
Starstock.
like
Starstock did some of that originally. They did a little. They did offer like submissions through their platform. They had done that in the past, and I feel like ComC did that years ago. I might have been with Beckett because I remember they offered a similar. It's not like it's not their first rodeo. ComC's been around a while, so they've definitely tried it before. And for them to feel confident enough, because don't forget, ComC also is processing and doing things with cards too. So for them to feel confident enough to say, okay, we can handle our own stuff, our own volume, and we can make this available to you. Obviously, they're getting a little off the top. It's got to be a profitable venture for them to do it in the first place. But as a consumer, just looking at it as a consumer, there is a convenience to being like, okay, I'll pick a card on the platform or I'll get it e-pack, whatever. Oh, I'd like to have it encapsulated. Oh, you can do that for me, send it, bring it back, and then I'll ship it back home at my leisure. Okay, that seems kind of good for me. That's an option because it's basically, ComC is basically a vault if you really want to get down to, because don't forget, PWCC does that too. You can submit cards in to go get them sent off to a third-party grader. You can do that. And I think
I don't
the
know.
ecosystem has an idea too. Go ahead.
I don't know. You know what? Because I mean, a lot of graders want to look at the cards, and want to play the cards, and see the shape and things like that, right? So I mean, realistically, you're just looking at it from the computer, and like I said, a lot of the ComC stuff, like I've seen, come back. Well, some years, whatever, some I guess prints of them or whatever are bad, and so I mean, you're getting like maybe you come back and you're getting like a whole bunch of bad grades or whatever. Well, it's not going to work out. Well, the other thing is that this kind of reminds me of like those NFTs. You're not really touching the item. You're not really touching and playing with the cards to get them graded, and then how does that work? So I don't know. I don't know. If I was just a consumer and doing that, I don't think I'd do it. I want to see my cards. I want to go and look at my cards and have take a look at the shapes and make sure I would send the best ones rather than sending all of them, right? So
well, I'm inclined to agree with you, but I would point out to you there are plenty of people who get a chance to look at them and do it and still can't do a good job. Like they actually do.
Sure.
It's like actually that card is terrible. It's like it's literally off center. I can see it from space. We've seen that. Like I've been over at your booth and literally just look. I can see the off centering from over here, and I don't wear these for fashion. I wear them because I need them. It's like I can still see how off center it is from all the way over here.
But sometimes people send those in because it's not about the shape of the card; it's about the sentimental value of the card.
Agreed. But
right?
some of them send
There's
it
a
in because they
reason.
legitimately think it's a 10. They're just wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and they had every opportunity to look at the physical card, and they still got it incredibly wrong. So I think your point, Luke, is very valid, and I think it's a legitimate caution because it's not a guarantee. And I'll grab a couple of these comments here. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
I like this one. You're gonna wear your PSA Canada shirt at headquarters? I think you should do it.
Absolutely, 100%. I got some PSA Canada shirts to bring to a few of my friends that work at PSA. So
you're gonna get them to wear your shirt.
I'm gonna definitely give them some swag.
There you go. I like it.
It's their logo. We just added the little cannon on the bottom. So
that's right. Yeah. I like this. What's the plan, Men Collective? Pull up in a Lamborghini and a Rolex and make yourself look like the most important person in the room. Do it. But do it. Do Bugatti Veyron. Don't do Lamborghini. Don't waste your time on a Lambo. Do the Bugatti.
absolutely, I could say hockey 99. You definitely have that one wrong. I like to be the guy in the background now at this stage of my life. We'll be the people in the background, and I've got a lot of friends that are there, and we're also back to the point a little bit earlier, not to get off topic about it,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
when we said about different things, why do you go to events? So it's going to be informative. It's going to be exciting. Would I go there just for the event itself? No. Myself, Sherry's coming. My daughter, Summer's coming with a friend that's coming to Vegas. They're coming down for the 5 days as well. So we kind of turn it into, I get to do the Mint Collective. Sherry's going to be there as well. I think Luke, I'd love to see Luke come down for it as well. So, but we're going to turn it into a trip and we're going to network. I'm going to spend time with Adam Martin and all the guys from Dave and Adams that I'm close with. And so it's not just about that. It's about turning the whole thing. It's just like going to a show. Carlos, you talked about it the other night about going to the National. Sure, you want to buy some cards and that's what you're going there, but it's all the other things that's around it. So it's very important to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like I said, what it really comes down to is that that event has almost nothing to do with the card show. It has almost nothing to do with the things around it. Like I said, it's the value for a lot of the folks that are going to go to it is literally the players being in the room at the same time and being able to talk to them simultaneously. You don't have to do emails. You don't have to do it through, intermediaries. If you're physically in the same space and you can strike up a conversation with the right group of people, some deals are going to get done there. Or at least the groundwork is going to get laid for some deals that are going to be set up afterwards. That's why they're there. They're not there because, or they're there to go hit up the roulette table after. Like there's going to be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So that's what they're there for.
Or shopping at the outlets.
Maybe.
That's where shares
Just
gonna
maybe. Hey, listen, if the deals go really well, Luke, if plastic is banned, do you see holders being made of some kind of glass? Everything's banned. May not be banned, but taxed. Most likely taxed.
Yeah.
Although they're banning small engines for machines to do yard work. Lawnmowers are the devil. Tax them all. But it's one of those things where it's all of those things, like jokes aside, all of those things are going to play into the economic climate. They're going to play into the business considerations. That's why I say, like, we try to, as collectors, we always look at it from the perspective of what we want and what we want to get. Like these businesses are businesses. They're not your friend. Let's just be nice about them. They're not your friend. They're not here to be your homie, your buddy. They might pretend they're here to be your homie or buddy, but in reality, it's like, we just want your money. If you would just give us your money, that's all we want. In fact, keep the cards. We'll take the money. But like at the end of the day, from your perspective as a consumer, you're entitled to having your side of it. You want the service. As a consumer, you want the service. And from them, they want your money. And that's the back and forth, transaction that's happening here. So that's why I say when we talk about the pricing and all that, it's like, oh, well, they should lower the prices. It's like, well, if it makes sense for them to do so, then yes, they should lower the prices. If they can charge you triple, if they can double the price tomorrow and make even more money, then they'll do that.
It's true. I had a conversation with a guy today. It was very hard. He was on Facebook Messenger. He sent 15, 20 messages. Then I had 5 or 6 emails. Finally, I just said, I just have to talk to this guy. So
Sure. Yeah.
And he does not like that PSA upcharges. So he thinks that they should just pay for it. I said, absolutely understand.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he goes, it's just not right. I said, yeah. I said, if you think it's not right, then it's hard to come out without saying this to be rude. And I didn't. And I told him, I said, I'm not trying to be any sense of arrogance or anything, but don't submit your cards to PSA.
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's very simple. Like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to come across that way, like, with that arrogance. Like, that's not what I meant, but it gets to that point. Like, we're all collectors. If you don't like something, don't do it. If you don't like the YouTube channel, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like SGC, don't submit to them. If you don't like PSA, don't submit to them. Right?
Yeah.
We preach that, Carlos, and you do a good job of that all the time. Put it in reality for people. It's just like, do what you like. It's your choice, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I use the analogy as a collector. This is a tool in the toolbox. It is not required. You can use it. There are literally people who are like, I recommend to you a one touch. I recommend to you a top loader. I recommend to you put it in binders, go put it in the pages, flip through it, and enjoy it. That makes more sense for you.
Yeah.
Because it'll cost you less. You're probably just as happy, if not more happy. You won't have to send your cards away. You will not have any of the downside, and you'll have all the upside of enjoying your cards. So why on earth wouldn't you do that instead? And I was chatting with Bobbles, and there were some folks that sometimes will submit cards, and he has the same thing that you do as well. So there are folks sometimes submit cards like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you even submit these? I just want to. At the end of the day, the customer's always right in this sense. Like, if they insist and this is what they want to do, then so be it. But at the same time, it's like, but you really don't have to. But just to be clear, what you're paying for this doesn't necessarily make sense. Yeah. And it's like, it's just going to cost you money. And what do you get? Unless you really are that much in love with the holder, I don't see the benefit here for you. Yeah. But if they still want to, at the end of the day, if they understand that, and you've said what you can to try to be like, look, I'm here to take the money if that's what you insist on, but I'm trying to tell you it might not make sense for you. But if you still say yes, then I will take your money.
Yeah, it's true. And that's one thing I thought, like, the more times that there's cards that you definitely don't know the value, now that the price is lower, it's good. But I am putting up our first auction this week of an order that we received a year and a half ago that wasn't paid for. Right. And after 10 emails over the last year and 25 phone calls and messages left. And so I'm putting it on eBay next week, and it's going up for auction. And it cost me, say, $2,500 worth of grading fees, and I'm probably going to get back maybe $1,000. We'll talk about it on the show. I'll have the exact number because we're going to keep that.
No, that's fair. But that's the thing is that I try. I think the best thing that a lot of us can do as hobbyists in general, in and out of the business, is just try to be honest with people. It's time to stop, take off the kid gloves. It's time to just tell people the truth, because again, there is utility here, and there is cases where this makes more sense. There are different use cases for almost every single one of the third party graders if you have a use for them. There's also a use case where you don't need any of them. So that's why I say, like, it depends on what you're trying to do out here. I can tell you, if you have a thicker card, a memorabilia card, or whatever, PSA is probably a terrible idea. They tend to grade those pretty harshly. Like in the past, like you'll get knocked down. Some of the other options might make more sense for you. So that is a specific use case. But there are examples where certain cards will probably make more sense with one over another. So you can kind of shop around and get the best result for whatever it is you're trying to do. You will learn that. And if you ask hobbyists who are being honest with you, they'll be able to kind of direct you and be like, by the way, for this kind of card with this type of defect, you might do better over here. With this other one, you might do better over here. And that's just trying to help out and give information.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny when on that guy too, when I went back through the email trail that I printed off, when he did submit, I was like, you shouldn't, it was back and forth. You should not submit these cards at this time. Just wait a little bit. And then you get, no, this is my personal collection. I'm just excited. I want these slabbed. Everything is good in life. And then he just disappeared.
Yep. And it happens. And that kind of plays into, so what I was saying kind of plays into this. There is nothing in the hobby that someone could be ignorant of that would shock me.
Yes.
Nothing. Literally nothing. I'll still get eBay lots with people that they put it in a top loader with no penny sleeve.
Yeah.
And they're sellers on eBay with thousands of feedback. And I'm like, don't know about the penny sleeve? You're not familiar with the penny? You're not, and like basic stuff. Nope. If they don't know about the penny sleeve, you think they can't figure, you think they know about upcharges?
Yeah. And you think now, sure, the collector base knows, but if you look at the collector base that submits to a lot of grade, especially PSA, based upon the cards and the questions that we deal with every day, it's 5% are collectors and regulars and understand the process. 95% of the people that submit through the mail to us or even come into shows with cards that aren't our regular customer base don't have any idea. They literally have no idea what they have, no idea about grading. You know, there was a question today. How do I put my card into the top loader? Should I put it in? Is there a way? Should it be upside down or should it be vertical? Should it be horizontal? And I said, well, you can't fit it in if it's horizontal. And he was like, yeah, that's a good point. He goes, well, what am I going to do? Because there's 4 sides on a top loader and one of them's open. I was like, yeah. Well, how can I prevent the card from falling out? I was like, how do you think you might be able to do that? And I wasn't trying. Again, you do get to the point sometimes where you're just like, and this would seem like a very educated guy. Like he seemed like a decent guy on the phone. I was like, maybe just stick a little painter's tape on the top. That's a great idea. He said, that's what I'll do. But it's back to these things. So when you think about it, again, it's not the people that are collectors, the people in the chat that we know cards. It's the people that have no clue whatsoever. So
look, I've used this analogy before, but I'll share it with you. I don't think I've ever told the story to Luke, but I've definitely told the story on the live stream before.
Yeah.
Back in my previous life, I worked in a call center for satellite television. That was my job. I was tech support. So the customer service rep would transfer it over, and then they'd wait to talk to me. And my job was to make your TV work again. That was my job, and I was very good at it. I had one lady who called in. TV wasn't working. I went but part of the reason I was good at my job is that I could diagnose it very quickly. So I could figure it. Immediately I knew the problem was that there wasn't power to the receiver. So I said, okay. So I just said, is the receiver plugged in? And it's a stupid question, but like immediately I can diagnose based on just a couple of quick questions. I'm like, is the receiver plugged in? And she goes, it's exactly the way it always is. So is the receiver plugged in? Like I'm gonna blow past your statement. My question is it plugged in? Well, long story short, no, it wasn't plugged in. But she insisted. She insisted to her, she swore on her life to whatever deity you believe in that is exactly how the receiver had always worked. And I said, I assure you there are no batteries in it. I assure you the Holy Ghost does not possess it and make your TV work. It still needs electrical power as an electrical device to work. I promise you. And I had a 10-minute argument with this lady who insisted that an electrical device would operate without power. Because she was hell-bent with this idea that that's how it worked.
Did you ever like guide people to go and take that receiver and walk to their balcony and just drop it off and maybe that'll fix it?
When I did escalations when somebody wouldn't pay, We got close there a couple times. I can give you stories, but look, but my point of this, and that, by the way, that was a 100% real phone call, and the lady who just hung on, she refused to even acknowledge the possibility that it's like, no, it's always been like that. It's like, if it's not plugged in, I promise you weren't getting TV.
Mhm.
I promise you it wasn't working. At some point, it got unplugged. It's okay. Plug it back in. It's fine. She plugged it in, and the damn thing worked immediately. Like, it was fine. She had to wait 2.5 hours. She got to the customer service rep who had to transfer it to me. She got to wait 2.5 hours for the privilege of me telling her it wasn't plugged in.
Yeah.
All the time. And at least one per day, there would be somebody where the receiver was on and the television was not turned on. They literally had to go in and just press the power button. TV blares in the room. One per day.
That lady's probably doing tech support in the building now.
Probably.
Their old folks.
Yeah, she's the expert now. The point of that story, though, the point of the story is that there is no level of ignorance or stupidity that could possibly shock me. None. In any facet of life. Once you see and hear that enough times, you're like, I'm just going to assume you don't know a damn thing until you prove me otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is hard. It's part of the job. It's back to that. Like, I have an extreme amount of patience. When someone kind of goes over the bear, once they become a little bit rude, or if there's anything, that's when that's when you can switch over to it. But I have a lot of patience for people, but you do get to the point, especially after, like, if it's chaotic during a long day and it's the same questions over and over and over and over again, it's difficult. And I guess that's like working. I had a great call last week with the two people that work customer service that I was helping out because they're doing some stuff in Europe. And we had a great chat and we were back and forth. And I just thought about those people that have been there for 5 to 10 years at PSA, working customer service and getting the questions. And I was like, think what they went through during the backlog and everything else, where people were calling, "Where's my cards?" And PSA had no idea because they weren't all scanned in yet. Like, I can't imagine what they dealt with. And they had some great stories that we shared. And, it's all part of the job, I guess. But there's a breaking point. I guess I could say that even people like myself that do have a lot of patience, you do hit that point. I copied Luke on an email this week with one gentleman. I just was to the point. It's okay. After 20 phone calls and 40 emails and all this stuff, like, I'm sorry, enough is enough. And that's just, I had to put that in the email. I just was like, and I'm sure he's not a bad person, but you just got to draw the line sometime.
Yep. And I can say, it's like, just to tell you though, I'll share with you guys some stories after we go offline. That was one that I can share with everybody because it's kind of a lighthearted one, but there was some impressive. Look, I can relate to what they've done because I did work in a call center where we were in a hopeless situation where we were on red for the amount of wait times for 2.5 straight years. I did it for 2.5 straight years, 50,000 phone calls, 50,000. 12 hours a day oftentimes, so I would do it. And I did 13 straight days of 12-hour days, taking call after call after call. Trust me, I got war stories.
I love it.
All right. So Nova Grover says, Brad and I laughed about this the other day. You can't fix to it. Very true. Yeah. Eric says, rule number 1, 100%, sir. It does apply in life. I assure you it applies. I promise you it does. So your Agaki says, Luke, do you have any war stories that are similar to Brad's? Luke, tell him about the time you killed a man. Please continue.
No, I do have war stories, but I can't really say them because politically I'm not correct on them.
Well, that's the reason why. Look, I shared with you one of the ones that I definitely can share with you. There are some that I can't. There's some that I can't for possibly legal reasons. But the point is that you hear things and you see things if you operate in that kind of business. Let's just put it that way. That the customer service business is a tough business, especially if you're on that front line. I don't envy that. I'm glad I'm not in that business anymore. But I've done it. But I've been there and done that.
It's crazy. I'm thinking about that. Nova Grower, he was at AMG when I brought in a bunch of parcels that I was just going to start to open up there because Steve's away, so I was working at the shop. And one of the packages there inside was a card. It was inside a box, inside another box, and then it was taped. Like, I don't know if they used like a roll of tape on it. So I'm working to get it out of this package, and I'm thinking, you know what? Like, I know you want it to protect your card, and that's good, but there's a hell of a more chance that it's going to get damaged with me trying to get the card out of there than actually doing that. right? So it's like sometimes there's that point. It's like, all right, let's just do this. But one thing that we are doing, I'm working with a gentleman that submits cards to us that is going to do. He had a great idea. He's a photographer. Um, he wants to do a video from start to finish of him. He was going to do this anyways, and now we're going to do a little collaboration on it. But he wants to go into a store and he wants to buy a pack of cards, and he wants to the whole process. He's going to video, create a little bit of fun to it, and show exactly how you should submit your card. PSA did a video like 8 or 9 years ago. We talked about it, Carlos, like how important it is, because I think I even talked to Eric, who's in the chat, about is like, keep it simple. What's his saying?
Keep it simple. Yeah, KISS.
Keep it simple. Yeah. So keep it simple. And once people can visually see it, no matter how many times you can say, read how to do it, if you can see it, that will be a big help. So
no, doing a visual guide will be huge, because right now I think people need a modernized version of it. A visual guide. This is how you can pack it. So LGC, actually got a theory on this, but I'll let you go first. Are certain numbers unique for the card? That is, can two cards have the same certain number? Please. I've actually encountered a scenario about this, but if you want to add anything, you first.
Yeah. So to mine, they shouldn't. Could there be a mistake? Yes. And there's also something that tonight that I learned. Sherry entered a cert number on a card that was dual service, and she actually entered that number into PSA DNA, and it came up, and she's like, "Oh, this card should be a Dan Marino autograph." And I was like, "No," because she went into the PSA DNA, and that number actually exists in PSA's database and PSA DNA database.
So that's what I was going. So yes, technically speaking, if it's a PSA card, there should be only one with one certain number. However, PSA DNA, to Brad's point, he hit the nail where I was going to go with this, because I have encountered that a number of times. Because I've had people come back to me, it's like, "Oh, this certain number is twice." It's like, did you check which one it was on? Because they literally do it's a serial number. In reality, maybe what they should do, and this is my opinion, in reality, what they should do with that to distinguish it is put like a letter prefix. They should have like a letter prefix to distinguish between PSA DNA and PSA graded cards. That way they're two separate database numbers, but they are maintaining two databases. So you can have the same number in PSA DNA and PSA, and it will be two different items. A card and perhaps an item, but they're both legitimate, but they're two different sets.
Yeah. And you can see how it did it, because it confused Sherry when she looked, because it was a dual service. So on the dual service, it says on the bottom underneath the name, PSA DNA. So when you see the PSA DNA, you'd think it's an easy mistake. So that's the first time I encountered it. So
yeah, I've encountered it a few times, and it's good. It's a good call out. Go ahead, Luke.
Also, our submission numbers also are some serial numbers.
Exactly.
So
it can get confusing. If somebody's not paying attention, you can get confused with the numbers floating around.
yeah.
Is the customer always right at PSA Canada? I don't believe in that approach.
No.
We've said you're wrong a bunch of times.
Yeah. But I think in business, even before the PSA side, I just think that's one of the stupidest sayings that I absolutely have despised my entire life. No, the customer is not always right.
How many Ken Griffey 89 Upper Deck cars are submitted to PSA Canada? How many have you submitted?
A ton of those. Not as much as the 91 Upper Deck SP.
Okay.
But I have got some 10s, like, I don't know, say maybe half a dozen 10s on that card, but I've never got a PSA 10 personally or for any customer since I started on an 89 Griffey, and we submitted quite a few of them.
All right. Nice.
Have Luke, you ever got a 10 back on the 89 Griffey? Or seen it?
I bought like 3 boxes off of some guy. Yeah.
Okay.
And I opened them all, and I got no Griffies at all.
Was the guy like in a truck? Was he in a van down by the river? Luke, where are you buying these things? What are you doing?
I bought a whole bunch of old wax from him, but he said that his uncle had a shop back in the 90s or whatever, had all these in this storage unit. He's selling all the storage for his uncle. So I bought all these boxes from him, and yeah, 3 boxes of the Griffies of the 89 Upper Deck, nothing. Nothing. Fuck us, man.
Was it low number or high number?
It was a low number one.
Okay.
Oh,
no, the thing is, the high number one, you still have the lower numbers in it, but it also has the high number card. It makes it, the odds are worse in the high number box, but you can still pull it. But Only Luke. Like I'm envisioning right now a wax box buy in like the shadiest part of town, literally in a van down by the river. Like I'm envisioning
It's
right now. I see the vision.
it's $15 a box, whatever, but still.
Well, $15 a box. You open a pack and it's like Will Clark, Will Clark, Will Clark, Will Clark. 15 straight Will Clark cards. What are the odds?
The correlation was bad on that year.
Jesse Orozco. What?
That's good.
Sorry, I didn't read this. I got distracted by Luke's thing here. How long till humans are removed from the grading process to ensure more consistent grading results? Psh, they've already been like that's been perfected, man. We use AI right now for the finest coasters in the hobby. Finest.
Do you know what a good comparison to that is? That question is I like it. And I was listening to the NFL last weekend, and they talked about referees. It's like, okay, is there a point that, and I thought about it even with the card grading because I never knew how to articulate this properly. But do you want absolute perfection in something that is a hobby or fun? It's like, do you want to get rid of referees? Like I'm sure they could get rid of referees in the NFL now and do it all by video and make calls and everything. But does that take away some of the enjoyment of it? I think if everything was just straight, then you could just have packs graded or have cards graded right out of the pack. And like part of the excitement and the fun of it is all that. Like when I say it, I want to say I don't want perfection. Obviously you want accurate, but do you want perfection on things? I feel like subjectivity still adds to the whole experience. Like would this grading business be where it is if you could just scan your cards through and here's the grades and this is what they are? And again, I'm not sure if I'm articulating it the right way, but I feel like that subjectivity of it is still part of some of the fun and the passion and the gambling, the enjoyment of submitting a card. Like if you just the anticipation, the wait, like. You know, I had a guy today that had submitted 2 cards. One card he's waiting for. He goes, "Can you give me the grade on the other card?" And I'll say this publicly. Obviously, we can't do that all the time. We don't have the time to do it. Mm-hmm. But this guy's a very nice guy. I think he was an older gentleman. And I walked over to the single box that we have waiting. And it was a Connor McDavid. So I was scanning through a Connor McDavid young gun. And I'm like, I see his name. And I'm like, oh, it's a PSA 10. So if it would have been a PSA 8, I would have said my answer would have been they're packed up, ready to ship. I don't have access to that because it's much easier to do that. But I told this guy, and he was beside himself with happiness. It was the night. It was one of the best calls I've ever had since I started at PSA. How excited this guy was, and he's like, "Hang on to it, keep it safe. Just wait till my other card comes. This is a life changer, right? You know, like, and it really, you know, it's a $4,000 win for this guy. Like, sure. Huge. It was awesome. But anyways, back to that. I do like the subjectivity of card grading and anticipation.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Luke, I have a thought that I'm going to share on this one, but please, do you have a thought you want to share first?
No, I agree. I agree with Brad 100% on that. I mean, and many times, like I have from people, like, you know, anytime the cards come in, it's like they always ask, are the cards back? Are the cards back? Mm-hmm. As soon as the card's back, you know, and they're ready to get it. It's like, they're so filled with excitement and anticipation to see what the cards are and how they're graded and stuff. And there's a lot of people that don't want to see their grades. I mean, I send some pictures and sometimes to people, but I hate doing it because I'd rather them look at it and see it themselves and enjoy it. Either be bad or, you know, be pissed off because it's a bad grade or be really happy because it's a good grade, right? But it's like I tell people, it's like Christmas every day. For me, it's like whenever I get my boxes from Brad, it's like, it's Christmas. I get all these cards and it's like, you know, I get to open them up and, you know, sort them all out and then, you know, give them away again. And then the process starts again in the next couple of days, you know, it's fun. That's what keeps me in, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I think both of your comments and statements are very valid. And now I'm going to share the reality of it. I'm a guy who literally made a video saying inefficiencies are a good thing. Literally, the entire basis, look, to be clear, the entire basis of this hobby is based on the human error element. From a business standpoint, it is bad business for third-party graders to completely remove some subjectivity because the slab crackout game is literal revenue. It's what I said a moment ago. The companies in the space are not your friend. Their job is to generate revenue. So if you think you're smarter than everybody else, you think you've identified something that's undergraded, and you sense an opportunity, you crack it out and you send it in, and you hit on your 10. It was a 9, now it's 10. I've had this before. I sent in a couple of cards that were in Beckett 9 slabs, and one of the Beckett 9 slabs became a 10. It instantly increased the value of the card. It's the same card. Nothing changed. There was a piece of dust inside of the damn thing. We got rid of that. But it's the same card. Nothing changed on the card. And all that happened was it went from a 9 to a 10. Well, the difference in price delta between the two is pretty high. I understand why a lot of folks would want that, and it does make a lot of sense to me. I look at it from the perspective of, if you remove some of the subjectivity, there is value to that. I get it. But it's like, I think most people that are submitting it are trying to create some value. Number one, a lot of people are actually worse at grading than they think. If the machines were actually able to successfully do that, great. But at the same time, most of you are worse at grading than you think. So most of you would be very disappointed with the results of the real consistent. And then there's no point in sending it back in, right? Because if it's truly consistent, you're going to get the same grade as many times as you want to resend it back in theory. This is the theory, is that then there's no point. So when you screwed it up the first time, it's an 8. It'll be an 8 tomorrow. It'll be an 8 next week. It'll be an 8 next month. It'll be an 8 next year. That's it. We're done. It's an 8. It is not pronounced. The Scarlet Letter. If it's a modern card, that is now the Scarlet Letter. Your card is now worth less than raw. It's like in a lot of cases, depending on the card. So there is a downside to that. But I understand the idea. But at the same time, again, then what's the utility of even putting it in the holder then? If you can identify enough flaws where you're pretty confident that it'll come back, like I said, or in the 7 or an 8 on like a modern card, then there's no point in putting it in the holder in the first place. Mm-hmm. All it does then is it increases the market for raw, where people are trying to get on the sly and letting you take the shot at it. Yeah. Which, by the way, is still a thing today. But even with that, it would increase it. Again, I'm just trying to add a little bit of a cynical slant on it to point at a little bit of a different angle. Wills you may? Maybe. Was his first name McWilliams? There's a lot of shadiness going on with Luke's story. That's all I'm saying. That was related to your story. G.I. Joe. Maybe it was a repack product. Like I said, Will Clark. Hockey would like automated as well. There you go. Bad providing a master class and forward, but doling out the bad news. Why ruin somebody's day? There's a PSA 10 Andy Moog rookie on eBay with edges that look like a hedge clipper trimmed it. That shouldn't happen. Or should it? I have an unboxing my PSA submissions. What a thrill. There you go. I wish there was a way to track resubmission percentage from 9 to 10. Impossible to keep this metric. No, not really. Yeah. Have people given up on submitting junk wax in 2023? No, there's always a guy. There's always a guy. Brad. There's always a guy.
I just did. I just opened up Saturday. Well, I do think I did it on the Friday night show.
And you did it at $15.
Yeah, I did. I 100%. I did Saturday Night Live cards. I did 95 Pop Star cards. I opened a box of WCW 91 Pro Set Pop Stars.
Yep.
I love all that stuff. Again, did I submit crazy? But no, it was probably 50 cards. Mm-hmm. My Chris Farley's better be 10.
Well, but listen, I already made the van down by the river reference. That is a Chris Farley skit. That is a Chris Farley skit. So I gave it to you guys. Like I gave it to you on a silver platter.
I'll tell you, when you look at those Saturday Night Live cards like that, I don't have a clue. Like, you can't even, like, the centering and the edges, and you're trying to look at the corners, but the way of the design of them, like it's the hardest card I've ever tried to look at to figure out, which one's the best one. So this is a complete gamble. I could get back 5s and 6s. I have no idea. It'll be fun to do. I'll do a reveal.
Those pro set stars or whatever, that's like Madonna and those guys, right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
those
okay.
are hard.
Yeah.
I submitted about 100 of them. I submitted about 100 of them last year at that whatever, $10 or $15. I can't remember what it was, but I think the highest grade I got was like a 9.
Yeah.
And I wanted a 10 Tiffany.
Yeah. Nice. So those ones there are the hardest I've ever seen to look at edges, right?
Oh, okay.
They're, like, you're looking at the corners, you just can't see them.
Mm-hmm. So let me grab this comment here, and then I'll actually share with you guys something random. I'll talk more about it on Friday, but I thought it'd be kind of fun. I think I'd like to get your opinions on it. It's a bit random. It's a bit off the beaten path, but then we'll get back onto the beaten path here. CK says, why is PSA not doing pack crossovers? I wasn't aware that was an option. Is that something you can do?
Yep.
Can you do crossover in packs?
Yeah. I just sent in for a gentleman. He had a 1969 O-Pee-Chee hockey pack that was in a GAI.
Yeah, GAI would be a logical one. They did a lot of stuff at that time. That makes sense. So kind of playing into our theme of the night, because we talk about, being honest with business and all that, and the realities of business and all, and that part of it, and also not taking the stuff too seriously, because I think a lot of people really do get hung up on it because they do take it too seriously. For me, again, being more of a cynical person in the hobby who still enjoys it for what it is, I take pleasure in the little things. And can I share with you something small and stupid that I got great enjoyment from? It is not really card related, but the point is still the same. It stands. So I like to, I have a bunch of different like virtual bank accounts for those different ones. You get better interest rates and all that stuff. So one of them, EQ Bank, came out with a debit card. And I was like, okay, wait, whatever. But then they go, okay, so you get a debit card where the debit account that you're in gets the interest rate they get, which is I think 2.5% right now because of higher interest rates. Okay, fine, great. But you also get cash back. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll take that card. Give me that. Because I want to use it. I like having a debit card like that for cards. So it actually pertains to the top subject account. I'm like, okay, so I get interest on the thing while it's sitting in the account, and I get cash back on it. Okay, then I can use it for my eBay. I can use it for loading up my ComC account. Okay, I can see some value to it. So I said, yeah, send it over. It's free. It's a free card anyway, whatever. And it's a debit MasterCard, so you can use it for all this other stuff. Cool. So in and of itself, irrelevant, whatever. I get the package in. It was delayed. They said, oh, we're sorry for the delay, blah, blah, blah. Here's a $5 credit on your account. I'm like, wow, that's very nice customer service. I appreciate that. That's very nice. So I get my thing in the mail, and I get it inside of this. So it comes in this thing here. This is in the envelope. Now, like I said, in and of itself, again, it's a debit card. It's not a big thing. But this thing has a tab. And what happens is if you pull the tab, now check this one out, Brad. If you pull the tab on this thing, the card is actually at the top. And you can actually, it's actually a little apparatus. And I was like, all right, that's kind of cool for a free, stupid little card. Like,
That's great.
the stupid little thing is like, this is actually pretty sweet. Like, I like that. All right, that's sweet. Again, it's taking pleasure in the little stupid things. It's the stupid things. I was like, it's a free debit card for a free bank account. I'm like, but they literally came up with this little apparatus package. They paid money to design this so you could put the card in there.
But now you talked about it, so it's done as marketing.
I know, right? Now, opposite side of the equation. Also, I got joy from it, but for a different reason. Opposite side of the equation. So I ordered a thing from Amazon yesterday, and it was to ship out today. But I was in the office, so I check on the app, and it was actually this thing. So wireless earbuds. So obviously I got them. That's the end of that story. But here's the thing. So I got Prime shipping, whatever. So it ships within a day. I check my app. Oh, it's delivered. Awesome. Now here's the thing. If you got Amazon Prime, a lot of times they'll use the drivers. They use like third party, delivery, whatever. So the drivers, they'll do this. They'll take a picture to confirm delivery. Okay, sounds great. Now, I've seen some weird shit when they take the picture of it where they'll put it in the weirdest wrong spots or whatever. So my place, the unit number is 109. That's the unit number. So the guy took a picture of it. He put the box down in front of number 19. And I was like, you're not even close, bro. Not even, no, it's literally on the other side of the whole thing. And I was like, so not only did you deliver it wrong, but you took a picture to prove your idiocy to me. As if I was not convinced. I believe you. But it's like, when I got home and it wouldn't have been there, I was like, you took a picture. The picture shows the wrong number.
I love it.
Sometimes, like I said, I had to show it to a couple of my colleagues and they just stared at it. And they're like, he took a picture? It's like, he needed to confirm his idiocy to me. He was like, Carlos will not believe me. I have to take a picture. That's still not my favorite one, though. I did an Uber Eats where the guy literally took a picture. He put it in front of a parking garage on the other side of the street. And he took a picture of it. And I was like, did you think this was somehow going to make the delivery legit?
That's awesome. Speaking of that too, when you just showed your these little box. So I bought some of these.
Yep.
That came from a company, No City Design.
I think I've actually seen this before. I think I've actually seen that brand before.
Yeah, someone sent it to me anyway. So I thought I tried to get them to come in, but it's pretty cool. So inside is like you can put one graded slab card
nice.
in a bag.
Yeah.
And it's really like you never know. So I bought 50 of them to see, but it's
Yeah.
great quality. So now I think when we're shipping one card back to someone, I'll put it in this inside the bubble envelope, inside the other bubble mailer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty secure. So, and that way there's nothing else on it. And so we're going to get some of those logoed up too, to make the reveal even for people that have a single card. Maybe we can get them for 2 or 3 as well. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that we always try to wonder what to do.
Listen, I happen to know on good authority that a fun little quirk on packaging might enhance the customer experience.
Yeah.
It was so random. I was like, this is fantastic. Little things that we get enjoyment from. Repeat rule number 1. Yes, indeed. Like I said, 2 different opposite sides of the customer service experience, but memorable for 2 different reasons. I was like, really, guys? Now, what's funny is that the neighbor, when I got here, the neighbor who got it did put it in front of my door. The problem is it's been raining all day. So the outside of the box had almost disintegrated. I was like, come on, man. You're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. It was something. I was like, it's always something around here. But anyway, I just thought that was a little fun. 2 contrasts in customer service, kind of playing off what we talked about business. And it's not like Amazon doesn't have a lot of money to be like, guys, you can do better than that. Come on. And it was like a $20, $30 thing. And obviously I got it. In the end, I got it and it's working fine. It's fine. But I was like, come on. But you took a picture to prove to me you're an idiot.
Yeah, we get it all the time too. Like with UPS, how can you send? I mean, it's with all companies. I'm using UPS as an example.
Yeah.
But we pay an extra $5 or $6 a package, whatever it is, for signature required.
Yep.
So like when you look at proof of signature and it's left at door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is that possible? Oh, our driver. Well, that can't be. That's not an answer. Like that can't happen. And it happens unbelievably. Like I could say at least 20 or 30 times that I've had left at door. And this is pre-COVID. During COVID, it was even worse. We would be watching packages and be stressed out on it all the time. We had one guy submit a package to us today, and I gave him a call, and he's like, I don't know, do you guys have bad weather? Because the package says can't get delivered due to weather
or something.
Yeah, and I said, nope, I got it. I picked it up 100%. I have your package. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, how's that possible? I'm like, it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. People show it's it's humans that do this. It's not perfection, right? So, and yeah. Sorry, Luke. I'm just gonna say we do our best to monitor and track shipments and make sure everything's good, but we can't control the shipping product. Like there's nothing we can do. If UPS makes a mistake or FedEx makes a mistake, we'll try our best to explain to you, but there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I've had that twice this week or whatever, and somebody says, I mean, it's out of my hands. I'm not the one that's delivering the parcel, and they do that quite a bit. But UPS uses that or not UPS, Purelator uses that excuse of shipment delayed because of weather all the time when they don't deliver the product. I don't know why, because I had a package that was coming to me yesterday that said it was on the delivery truck. At the end of the day, it said it's not delivered because due to weather. My buddy called me and he's like, "You guys have bad weather out there?" And I said, "Nope, it's like +5 outside." Like,
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun though watching the shipping excuse. But the problem is that a lot of the drivers around here, I know who they are. So I've because my office most of the time when I'm working is in this office. I'm staring at you guys on the monitor and everything, and I'm talking with you guys, but I can set down my laptop here and do my work. The thing is, the door is just beyond yonder. You can't see it. The door is literally feet away from me. So unless the person is a ninja, and I've encountered some of them that are ninjas, but for the most part, unless they're truly a ninja, they cannot sneak up to the door and be like, oh, I touched it. No. I've literally caught some of them, though. They literally will punch it. Like I'm listening. I can hear them moving. And then I'll check the tracking, and it says attempted delivery. I will literally open the door and go, what attempted delivery? Like I'll literally look at the guy, and I'll be like, did you attempt delivery? And they're like, here's your package. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good day, sir.
That's so good.
There was no attempted delivery. There wasn't a knock on the door. There was nothing. Yeah, COVID sometimes it gets used as an excuse for some of that. I know this past manager of the local FedEx warehouse says I got sick of packages being left outside with no signature. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So look, sometimes you got to go to extreme measures, man. Sometimes you got to know. If you know who they are, Brad, you just do this. Don't even. Do not do. I am parked right here. I am beside that door. You knock on that door. I will sign for it, and you will give me my package.
Yeah.
Now here's what I'm going to tell you right now. When my cards come in from you guys, I guarantee they won't even attempt delivery. They're smart. They won't even come into my neighborhood. They will literally drop it off at the UPS store down the street. I will literally have to waltz in and go get it. Guaranteed. Yeah. Guaranteed. eBay Global Delivery has been a shit show for delivery delays. Yes. Yeah. The global delivery is bad. Oh, so I'll leave you guys, since, like I said, most of you have been just chatting general things today.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more story on eBay Global Shipping. One of my favorites. So in the earlier days of eBay Global Shipping, sometimes for the what they call last mile, they would go to another one of those third-party delivery services. My favorite one of all time. I ordered the cart. It showed delivered. Check the mailbox. Nothing. I'm like, delivered where? And I had to go backtrack in the tracking number, and I had to find it so that I could figure out what the tracking number was for the last mile courier they used. It was a private, like, third-party courier. They dropped it off at a convenience store down the block and elsewhere. Now, it's only because I've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years that I even know what this convenience store is. And I was like, there's no way. I literally walk in with the slip of paper with the number on it. And I'm just like, hey, do you guys get delivery? It's like, oh yeah. It's literally just sitting on a shelf just beside like the whole thing with a bunch of packages on it. And the guy just, here you go. And I'm like, so do they just drop off stuff? He goes, yeah, the guy's so rude. He just comes in, just puts stuff on the shelf. It was like, okay, thank you, eBay Global Shipping Delivery. If I hadn't known where the stupid convenience store was, I wouldn't have the card to this day. To this very day.
Oh yeah, it's true. I remember I got a call from Len, and because Len still picks up all our packages, this is part of our routine from FedEx. He's like, you wouldn't believe this. I'm at some convenience store on the Bedford Highway, and it says this is where our FedEx boxes are going to be delivered because the regular person was off after 23 years. Is that so? He's waiting outside. He's waiting outside. The store's not opening. The store's not opening, and he goes in, and also he's like, exactly like your story, Carlos. He's like, do you guys get FedEx packages? He's like, oh yeah, the guy was here earlier this morning. He goes, yeah, but you weren't even open. Where was he? How did he get here? Oh, he pulls in the back and he just leaves stuff. So Len goes in through like a hallway to buy the chip, and he's in the back next to a refrigerator. In the corner are two of our FedEx boxes just sitting there in the corner with 2 liters of pop on the top of them, but he was stacking up the groceries, and he's like, you can't be serious. And he was livid. And anyone that knows Len can just imagine. And he calls me, he's like, Brad, how can this? I was like, I don't know how it happened. I have no idea how it happened. Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, sometimes you'll see that one still is my favorite though, because my dad was with me at the time. And he couldn't believe it. He was like, the convenience store, really? And
Yeah.
I literally walked over and I had to share the story with him, and he was like, I can't even believe that. Like, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
Incredible. Magic Money Games, good evening. Finally not working a night shift, but getting in late. There you go. Fair enough. Hopefully you'll enjoy. So guys, any last questions or comments, throw them in, and then we'll wind her down. Fun episode. I was glad. I wanted to come back, and we were able to bring some good energy, have some fun with some story. Like I said, I wanted to have a little lighthearted thing, have fun with packaging. So we had a little bit of fun with some stories and everything. But we'll be back with a regular episode next week. We've got a little bit of a plan. We'll finalize it. I don't want to announce it or say anything yet. But we've got a plan that hopefully comes to fruition. And if it does, we'll give you a little bit of a heads up on that. So it'll be fun if we manage that one. Jerry Paul here. Good evening. Are you doing any grading reveals with the submitter's permission yet? If so, my Dr. J rookie just arrived. I'd be cool with it. That's very specific.
Yeah. Let me just see.
I'll just
Okay.
read the rest.
I'm just going to go off screen. You guys do your
Yeah,
thing.
go ahead. Do your thing while I'm reading here. Going card shopping AMG tomorrow. That's a good Friday in my opinion. Nice. I have seen that famous Len Potty anger. It's scary. Yes. And it wasn't even directed. It was for packaging. It wasn't even directed. It's just general anger at you, Eric. That's crazy. Crazy talk. But yeah, so Luke, sometimes like shipping, packaging, and all this stuff, sometimes it's like, I feel like sometimes the weirdest stuff will happen. That's why I say, like, really, guys? Is this what we're doing? Is this how we're going to have to, is this how this is going to go down? We're going to do it
I've
like
had
that?
packages where I've had packages where it took me like 10 minutes to take it apart, and I'm thinking, you know what? I understand that he wants, like, whoever sent it to me wants to have it protected. But what I do is that it's not getting protected by the way that I'm opening this up. You know, I try to do my best to go and you know, unpackage it properly, but then you unpackage the outside, then you go to the inside, and then you unpackage that, and then on top of each one, there's like, all you need is like one tape of painter's tape across the thing, not around the whole top loader to protect the whole top loader.
Mhm.
Like that's the worst. And I mean, they had like, I mean, when I was busy, there's times like, you know, they had like 50 cards or whatever. I'm trying to go and do that to every single card. It's crazy, but I mean, you know, it's hard because you understand it's their card. You're trying to make sure, but I mean, yeah, like Brad was saying earlier, it's hard sometimes because the way I'm opening it up, it's not going to go and really be that protective of it, right? So
Yeah. I wanted to see if I still had it around, but it doesn't look like I do. I actually, one of the last cards I received was literally, you know how you'll take base cards to put it around the top loader and whatever to protect it and all that, which is fine. They know that's pretty standard. They literally like put electrical tape all the way around. Like they like locked it down. And I was sitting there like, all right, how am I gonna? All right, I got scissors, you know,
the worst,
exacto knife. Like how are we doing this?
the worst is duct tape
Mm.
because even though like it's so sticky for one, and second is that if you just slid it in the top and taken the card out, the problem with it is that the card might stick to the duct tape, and then you're damaging the card. You know, so, but yeah,
Yeah, like
electrical tape
sometimes
I've had.
it was a brick. It was incredible with the whole package and the whole thing, like because it was so tightly wound with everything. It was like, okay, it is secure. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It is about as secure as it's gonna get. I'm not sure how I'm gonna extract that out of here without the jaws of life. But that is
Yeah.
like, I'm like, can I get in here and get this card? I'm curious. Still working on it, Brad?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I just want to see. I'm just looking at all Jeremy's orders that he has, and we have, I have 3 cards back for him, but I don't have his Dr. J listed as back yet. It could be in the box that we didn't get to.
Gotcha. That's fair.
Yeah.
So good evening, Hobby Cop. Absolutely. No worries. No worries.
I'm going to double check just to make
No, that's
sure.
fine. While you're doing that, I'll make a couple of points as well.
Yeah.
So one more thing is for a lot of you guys, and again, if you want to throw any last questions or comments, feel free to do so. Like I said, we'll be back on the regular schedule here. We'll start planning out some other things as far as that's concerned. Some folks did take advantage of it last week. Everything was responded to, which is perfect. But if anybody checks it out on replay, feel free to throw in questions or comments in there. Go ahead.
Sorry, I got it. So, man, I can't believe how fast he was. So that is the one box that Len picked up today
Mhm.
that is at Len's house. And I was like, how is that not in there yet? There's only one. It's the one box that I have. So I do have the grade. I could take a picture if you want. Yeah, I can take a picture of it, Carlos. Okay, I'll come right back.
Yeah, that's fine. Do your thing. But
Pull
like
the
I said-
serial number.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Oh, okay.
Nice. But one of the things that was key for a lot of it is that folks did leave comments, which is great. Comments and questions, which is awesome. And then the team was able to respond to it, which is exactly what we want. And that's always a good thing. I'm a big fan of that. Hobby Cop says, long term, would a World Juniors Bedard card hold any value, you think? If he
No.
So I'll get... no, hold on. Let's be clear. He said any value. Any? Sure.
Okay.
Like even the Sidney Crosby Oceanic cards have some value. A lot of value relative to his rookies and other stuff? No. Because World Juniors and the, basically junior hockey cards and stuff like that do not hold as much value. They just never do. Before any NHL cards come out, sure, there's a little bit. Because if you guys remember, Crosby's a good example of this. Do you remember there was that Oceanic card? Like there was it was was it Rimouski or, Rimouski, right?
Rimouski. Yeah.
Yeah. So does that card have no value whatsoever? No, that card definitely has value because there's an autograph version of it too, if memory serves me. There was I want to say Be a Player had an autograph one, which to a Sidney Crosby super collector, that's going to be part of their collection. So does it have some value? Sure. Compared to like one of his autograph rookies, it's not even in the same discussion. But some value, sure.
I think I was looking at it today. I was like, especially with the bond being from Halifax with the World Juniors here.
Sure.
Back to that, do you get priced out as a collector? I was thinking I'd like to have the set, like of one of the high number autographs. And obviously I'll wait on Bedard because of the hype right now. I'm not interested. But to complete that, that'd be a fun little project, especially with the significance there. So
Absolutely.
I just sent over Carlos the picture. So
Perfect. All right. So if I get it here, I'll share it. Sounds good. Nova going philosophical on us. Value is subjective. That is facts, sir. That is facts. But no, it's like, that's why I say, like, the term any value left it open-ended. The answer is, does it have some value? Sure. Yeah. And down the road, if he becomes a great player, a Connor Bedard super collector who really is a super collector is going to want the card anyway. Like it's going to be part of the collection. So there will be some demand and there will be some value, but that's usually the issue. The issue is how much demand will there be? How long does it sustain? And that's what we're looking for. All right, so I think I've got it here. Let's see. Let's see if I can get it to show up on this end. Bear with me a moment.
I thought Jeremy can put it in the chat too. This one wasn't a crossover. Was this one that was cracked out?
All right, so I've got that. So bear with me a moment. I will see.
And yes, we have blasters and hobby boxes.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, I feel like we maybe cracked this out for him. Like,
oh, for the card itself.
yeah, like I think because he submitted a bunch of cards that were in other holders from different companies, and the Jordan, a Dr. J, there was a bunch.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just trying to see. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so I do have one, and I think Sherry sent it here.
Oh,
so you guys want it with the serial number or without?
Yeah, you can put the serial number. Absolutely. It's his. He wants to see it. So.
All right, sounds good. Bear with me a moment, and I will do that. So let's see if we can make that here. It's getting a little bit of a delayed reaction, so it took me a moment. Let's do that. All right, so I can share the window. So here we go. Dr. J in a 7. Very nice.
Ah, there you go.
Nice crisp card there. Let me drop this off here. That was the answer to the question about a website. There you go. Thank you for that. This was cracked from a BVG6. Very nice. Very nice, sir. BVG usually is a little bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Solid. And I'll show the back here. So let me back off here for a second, and I will show the other part. Okay.
See, I just opened myself up. I took the risk there of showing that. I was like, was that in a Beckett 8? Was that it? So then it always can go downhill. I might have been playing that offset. No, I don't got the card. Came back altered. Right? Like
just because
that's pretty good from a 6 to 7.
Yeah, very good.
The key is with BVG, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, because I've seen both sides of that. Sometimes BVG is a little too generous.
Sometimes they grade altered cards too.
They do. They do. Now, real important, and this is a good example of what I was talking about earlier. Obviously, it's a 7. Still a clean card. Nice looking card. So congratulations, Jeremy. Great job by you. Now, PSA, as we well know, that's why I said there's different tools for the job. PSA, we know, is more generous with centering. Because obviously, if you look at the back here, so I showed the front and I'm showing the back. The back is almost miscut. Like it's basically right up against the line of being miscut. But the card is still clean. It still presents very well. I still think it's a very nice card. So it's one of those things, though, but you don't get punished as bad. PSA tends to be less punishing on centering. One of the other third-party graders, an SGC or whatever, you would probably get hit a lot harder. So maybe that's why it was a BVG 6. Again, I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating. It is subjective. But if they wanted to be a little bit more punishing on the centering, they could hit you for the centering on the back, and that could be something that would knock you down more. If you're willing to be more forgiving for it, I still think it presents very well. I think the eye appeal is there, and it's a good, clean card. So again, congratulations, Jeremy. And thank you for offering permission beforehand before we did anything. So very important. Very important. So here, Hobby Cop's got a question, which we can answer here. Do they weigh the front centering more than the back? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you also get more tolerance for the back than on the front. So if you look at any of the grade levels, you get more forgiveness for centering on the back than you do on the front. Although on the front, there's still a little bit of latitude, but if it's more off-centered on the back, you won't get punished as badly. So that is based on the grading standard.
You can go on, you go on PSA's site and you can see the grading standards and it gives it. So
yeah, they'll always give you more latitude on the back centering. That makes up for the Korean BVG 6 that went to PSA 4. Yeah, that's more in line with what I've seen. That's why I say like it can go either way. And I've seen the two grade shift like that. That's definitely been a thing that I've seen before.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot shift from all companies. I'm not just saying, but
yeah,
from a numerical grade to a altered, a recolored, a trimmed, that happens quite a bit, especially on the higher grade stuff from lower companies.
The only reason I'm picking on BVG a little bit is because again, it's their standard, right? BVG literally sold itself as being a company that did vintage grading, but for vintage grading, it meant they were a lot softer on grading, generally speaking. That isn't to say, again, good example here, The BVG 6 became a 7. So you can definitely, but I've seen a lot of examples where, oh, that's a 5 or a 6. That's a bit generous for a 5 or a 6. I might, it wouldn't shock me if you cracked that out and it dropped a grade or two, because that happens a lot. Because they were a lot easier on a lot of the grading, but that was their standard. To be fair, that was their standard. They did that on purpose.
Yeah, we have 2 cards I just checked to see where they're at, but pretty excited. I haven't had a card in that I've been really excited for a long time, but Steve at AMG bought some 68 O-Pee-Chees baseball,
Okay.
and there's 2 Nolan Ryans that are really, really nice.
You mean the Jerry Kuzman rookie?
The Jerry Kuzman rookie, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So those are in there right now, and they're in Q1. So they got there last week, and they're in the Q1 stage, and I've been that kid again checking. I don't know. I might have checked 10 times today just to see if it moves, because those are 2, like they could be really, really big cards. Like the highest grade that has sold in the last 5 or 6 years has been a 6. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I think in my 68 O-Pee-Chee set, I have one card that is a beautiful Nolan Ryan, but it's graded authentic because it has a little bit of a miscut. So I requested it because I wanted the top key cards graded. Most of the cards in this set I have are 7s and 8s and a few 9s, but I can't get a Nolan Ryan, and then another one that is miscut. So both of them I sent in. So I have miscut, and then finally I got one. I just wanted it slabbed, so they slabbed it for me as authentic, which is cool.
All right.
I love that card. That's Jerry Kuzman's rookie.
Jerry Kuzman's rookie. It's always fun making the joke about that one, but like Jerry Kuzman actually wasn't a bad pitcher for a bit for the Mets. He actually was a decent pitcher. Obviously, Nolan Ryan was the star in the long run, but Jerry Kuzman wasn't a bad pitcher for them. He did do some things for them. I always assume BVG is overgraded if viewing online. Yeah, I tend to discount BVG grading a little bit. Again, not to be mean, just I've noticed their standard is a little bit soft, which is to say you will get some inflated numbers relative to the grading that I would give it for an equivalent card. That's just me. But again, you'll learn that just by looking at the cards, and you'll figure it out as you go along. If you look for good eye appeal, it's hard to go wrong. Like a lot of the vintage guys will tell you, just go look for good eye appeal and learn the product and learn the years and the brands, and you'll figure out a lot of its stuff. I think you'll do well. All right, so Novagor here says O-Pee-Chee baseball is undervalued. I agree. Relative to the scarcity of especially a lot of the older O-Pee-Chee baseball, I agree, 100%. Perfect. All right, guys. So you got yourselves a full length. We gave you a full length episode to make up for last week. So you got a proper full length episode. So we'll run her down right about here. Thank you all for the comments and the questions in the chat there. It's been really a lot of fun. We had a lot of different stories, and we even got to show off a card here at the end. So thank you again to Jeremy for sharing the card. Appreciate that. And we'll be back with upcoming episodes here. We'll start planning some stuff out. As Brad mentioned, we'll start figuring out some stuff that maybe we can add some additional supplemental videos to the channel. So we'll slowly work on that. If you haven't already, we'd love for you guys to subscribe. I want to start moving towards 300 subscribers. We got to 250, so thank you for that. Let's start creeping our way over to 300, which would be amazing. And if you could on your way out, if you could like the video, that helps a lot, push a lot of these up. And I appreciate a lot of you that are regulars here who do visit with us from every single week. We'll have another little placeholder for next week, so we'll be back from that. Anyway, for that one, have yourselves a good one. Again, like if you like on your way out, subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.